On the podcast, teenagers are not just vaping in big numbers, but research shows that they're smoking as well. What? What a monumental stuff up. Vaping isn't just the new smoking, but young people, they haven't given up smoking, according to the top researchers. 2 successive governments playing too fast and too loose with our kids' lives. We'll look at that tonight. Also, I break down Winston Peters' State of the Nation and ask, could he or should he be the Prime Minister? Let's go. Are we paying these people to front up, or are we paying them to fly to Wellington to eat their lunch? Should you really lose your career for refusing to take part in a 90-minute lesson about Māori culture? This government doesn't actually have any idea how to get economic growth. Show us what you made of, Prime Minister.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.
Welcome to the program. You're with the Editor-in-Chief. Good evening, everybody. I'm Duncan Garner. Welcome. Please subscribe. It's popping off, and if you keep it popping off, then we get to stay around. Be complacent, and your punishment will be we will go, and you'll get TV1 and the Herald for the rest of your lives. So there's your punishment. Subscribe and keep us here. Thank you very much. All right, a third of our young people are vaping. And worryingly, our older teenagers have aggressively moved to vape in massive increase in numbers there. And new research shows that the smoking decline has slowed, and more people are starting to take it up. Amongst our young people, it may well be the same. 175 million deaths in 30 years. Isn't that enough evidence to show you why you should stop? We've been let down in this space by both major parties, I reckon, National for ditching smoke-free legislation and allowing vaping to take hold, and Labour for being too soft on vaping rules. These guys it's just negligence, I reckon. I'd take both governments to court. Class action for nailing our kids. Also, Winston Peters, 80 in 2 weeks' time. Well, and showing Luxon how it's done. Don't you reckon?
It's the Slam Dunk.
Okay, it was a tub-thumping defence of this coalition government and an attack on those flakes who would replace them from the other side of the House. Peters used every old trick in the book for this State of the Nation speech from yesterday. The guy's 80 in 2 weeks' time. And fresh off a plane from Washington, D.C., the Deputy Prime Minister walked straight back into his annual State of the Nation speech with the energy of a teenager. A public meeting, old-fashioned in so many ways, but old-fashioned is working for Winston right now, isn't it? And with an ageing population fed up and angry with what they see as, minority causes getting far too much credence, whether it be Māori issues, LGBT, transgender issues, toilets, boys as girls, girls as boys, whatever it is. Whatever they demanded, Peters gave it to them and then some. It was like Trump-like. It was Trump. And it's working for Peters right now. No one is better at this than Winston Peters. Difference is this time, compared to in the past, he's actually doing something about some of this stuff, in legislation. You'd think Christopher Luxon would be the one defending his government's record and attacking the loopy left, but it's been left to the man who really looks in charge, doesn't he, in his last few weeks? And he's in his last few weeks as the country's deputy PM, but he looks in charge. Peters consistently outshines Luxon. And an outsider might say, if they didn't know, that Peters was the boss. If they looked at it, well, Peters is the boss. If we are out of recession, then shout about it. It's the first good news in 2 years, and Peters wasn't missing that chance. It could have been all his work, for all you'd known. If Luxon was pleased with the economic news, you wouldn't know it. Where was he all weekend? Shout about it. Fight for the job, Mr. Luxon. Peters was here to pump the good news, attack the snowflakes and pump the good news. Forget the minor fact that Peters actually put Labour into office in 2017. Oh, he never mentioned that. It was like it never happened. I mean, they did all that damage, but he wasn't responsible. An outsider would easy guess Peters was the PM. And Luxon, maybe some foreign envoy, bowing stupidly at the gates of an Indian god that he has nothing to do with. But back to the man making all the noise and all the stink, Peters. And the protesters infiltrated his meeting. He didn't care. That is beautiful for him. He loves it. Come to daddy. Like Muldoon did so well. It was someone to target. Have a look at this.
Out you go. See you. Out you go. Now away you go. 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 Look, he's even reading from his phone. He's even reading his protest from his phone. Wow. You can see what's wrong with the education system.
And it continued big time. Peters was now playing with them, toying with these guys. Toying with them as though they were puppets that were planted for his benefit. Imagine Luxon standing up to them. What would happen? What would he say? What would he do? It always doesn't bear thinking about, does it? Have a look at this.
Yes, here we go. I knew he couldn't wait. I knew he couldn't wait. We knew they couldn't wait. These are the kind of fascists they are. They're the kind of fascists you are. Go home. Go home. As I said, true to form, they couldn't even keep their counsel. We're going to get rid of them. I'm asking the security, get rid of them now. See you, sunshine. No. You're not disturbing us here. We're not going to be put off by you. You take your fascism somewhere else. You're not running this place. Come on, security. Get rid of them. Shut up and go home. That's if they'll have you.
Yeah, I know it was really long, but it's good, isn't it? As someone who started covering Peters in 1995, this mirrored him at his heyday, what I saw when I was a 22-year-old in the game. Just a much younger man watching this stuff and reporting on it. And he was attacking the national government then, for which he went on to work with. Whoops. Details, blah, blah. Don't let the facts get in the way of a good dust-up. Loud, funny, on point, no waffle. Peters was in his element, defending his government's record and how Labor had left an absolute mess when it left office. How it will take so much time to turn around, but turn around it is, you see. And he didn't miss the chance to attack Labor and what they did in government. Forget what they did was, well, put it this way. He was quick to rip into the narrative launched by Chris Hipkins, and he also said that basically you said that everything was okay when you left office when the opposite was true. You never told us the truth. Here we go.
It's a running comical commentary of how lacking Labor is of leadership, then and now. You know, you can't make it just eating a sausage roll and getting on a 6 o'clock news. You've got to actually do something. That the only person whose actions were so unforgivable and the economic and social damage so widespread now expects you all to believe that if given the chance, you could trust him to do something different. This is the same person who, when he became Prime Minister, had, and you'll recall what he did, he had a bonfire of the inanities. He wanted to burn nearly everything that he and Robertson had done previous to that. In short, he incinerated many of the policies that he was a critical part in forming. Go back and check the record.
Peters later ruled out working with Labor, and that's crucial. We shouldn't underplay that, because I thought it was underplayed in the mainstream media yesterday. But it's a really big deal, and it's come early in the cycle from Peters, who would never rule anyone out. Now he's ruling out Labor now. So he's saying and making it clear that he's with National. And by making it clear, he wants National's voters to come his way. That's why he's done it now. He wants to be the biggest party next time. He wants to be the PM. This guy's not retiring, quietly as an 80-year-old. He wants to be the biggest party. His attack on Labor was something that Luxon and the Nats should be doing. But they appear so timid, so reluctant to rock any boats. They've become so timid. So Peters put the boot in. He said that they left the place in this woeful state. Policies unfunded, huge inflation, and he said they had not only done that, but they had stated things were good when they were actually bad. Much, much worse than what they left them. Much, much worse. The books are a litany of lies, says Peters. And National and his party, along with ACT, had turned New Zealand around and got us out of recession, whether through good timing or luck. Peters' speech, his timing is perfect. 2 days after the news comes out that we're out of recession, Peters has a speech planned. Isn't that perfect timing? Luxon has no such luck. You make your own luck in this game, and there he was announcing the recession over, or at least taking the credit for the news anyway, which came out just ahead of his speech, as I said. Good luck, good timing, good on him. Where's Luxon taking the lead on the economy, pointing out that deranged left? Was he having a photo night at home after returning from India? Have a look at this.
We'd like to reflect on the fact that running an economy is like running a big ocean liner. Turning it around to a safer course takes time. But turn it around we have, and the last fiscal update out this week proves it. Incidentally, we are the only political party to give our State of the Nation speech with the benefit of the latest financial information that came out this week. That's the reason why this meeting is being held today, not last week, last month, but today here in Christchurch. We wanted to know with greater accuracy the latest circumstance. And my colleagues in New Zealand First, thank heavens we did. Because the information is a test to our stamina and our foresight and presence of mind. The figures out this week show our economy is now growing at 0.7% for the last quarter, which is just under 3% for the year coming forward, which shows that this coalition government is taking our country out of recession.
So it's the sort of work of a Prime Minister, really, isn't it? Except this guy's deputy and about to be nothing. About to be replaced by Seymour as deputy. Peters spent so much time attacking his opponents for cozying up to Māori, for being loopy snowflakes, for lying about the economy, for promoting trans and gay issues, and for consistently putting Māori ahead of other New Zealanders. He's on point. He's reading the room. This guy's always read the room. Peters said they were woefully out of touch, and they are. He's back to giving the best free show in town, Peters. Winston said laugh, and they laughed. Winston said boo, and they boo-booed. Why consider leaving at this time? He didn't talk about retirement. He didn't mention it. He did mention Shane Jones once. Clearly, Jones is the chosen one to replace Peters, and the party will stay in good stead. But, hey, what do you mean talk of replacing Peters? There's no such thing. He made no such hint. He was having far too much fun. A man who looked in charge, not only just his party, but of the country. And a man who's never missed a chance. Look at this.
Let us remember one thing. The spiritual home of the Labour Party is the West Coast. The site of the miners' strike in 1908, which started the Labour Party in 1916, the party that used to represent the workers of New Zealand. The coal miners, the gold miners, the labourers, the foresters, the fishermen and fisherwomen, the hard-working blue-collar battlers of our country. The catch cry used to be a fair day's pay for a fair day's work. They represented those workers in the very industries which have now become anathema of who and what the Labour Party represents today. That's a fact. If a political party today frothed at the mouth every chance they got about the coalition government being racist, anti-Maori colonisers, white supremacists, exterminators of Maori, anti-woke, this anti-woke, that, you could place so many of the Labour, Green or Maori Party caucus at the lectern and you wouldn't know who was who or which was which. Oh, I'm so pleased you're on their side. I'm so pleased you're on their side. Who do Labour now represent? It seems like her. They don't even know themselves. Did you swear? We're going to spend more time in Christchurch and Canterbury. This is fascinating stuff.
Peter's State of the Nation took on the mantra of a Prime Minister defending his government and a Prime Minister giving his story and attacking his main opponents. But Peters is, of course, only the deputy. Could he be more than that? I don't see it. I don't see how, unless, of course, New Zealand First replaces National on the right. That is, of course, his aim. This speech highlighted how weak and missing in action Luxon and some of his ministers are in the heat of the battle. Where was Luxon all weekend? Why didn't he get out there and promote the fact we're out of recession? He simply can't and won't do this type of speech. He supports much of what Labor stands for around diversity and LGBT. Ed Peters is taking his moment and using it. Luxon's your man. He's a go-to man for being bland and stand for nothing corporate, so to speak. That's him. Peters is there to pick up all the angry leftovers, and boy, there are plenty of angry leftovers. This time, his party, though, appears well organised. They're good at social media, and it's not just old Zimmer frames pushed by the bewildered at these meetings. Young people are turning up. They appear interested as well, and they're signing up. Most 80-year-olds would be retiring and heading to the Clevedon markets. But it seems like Winston has unfinished business and he's only just beginning. And worryingly for National, Luxon is allowing him all that territory to suck up some of these votes that National should be making their own. All right, we've said it.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.
Okay, Peters, you can't dismiss him, Isaac, can you? I mean, it was a tub thumping speech. He did so well. 800 people odd, you know.
Yeah. I mean, love him or hate him, you've got to respect the man's game. He knows what he's doing.
Yep.
He's been in the game for a long time. And so he definitely knows how to play the Game of Thrones, as you might say.
Yeah, true.
And so, yeah, you got to respect him for that.
But to listen to that speech that we just saw, you'd think that he's the Prime Minister, wouldn't you? The way he's standing there, where's Luxon?
Yep.
He's been back for a
Yeah,
couple of days.
Yeah. I was going to, in fairness, he doesn't have much to compete with at the moment. So it definitely, like, the country is definitely looking for somebody to guide them in that sense. And so all he really has to do is stand behind a podium and make a big speech.
Exactly.
And,
imagine.
He instantly looks like he's more in control.
Exactly. Imagine if his party becomes bigger than National. That's when he could. This is the problem with National. This is the problem with Luxon's leadership. It's so weak. It's so mild. It's so mild-mannered, and it's so stand for nothing. And the public see this. If people think that I'm speaking out of school here, go and read the room and listen to the people. I get so much feedback on this. Yeah. Anyway, we'll see.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.
Well said, Game of Thrones. Good line. Okay, vaping. Where are we at? Too many young people have taken it up. There's no doubt about that. And the changes coming may not help, despite that being the intent. It may not help. It may be too far gone. And smoking too maybe on the rise. We're meant to be taking this down to 0 for 2025, but no. The latest research out, New Zealand research that's in the Lancet, it doesn't paint a happy picture. Letitia Harding is with the Asthma and Respiratory Association and joins us now. Thanks so much, Letitia, for joining us. G'day, nice to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, this latest research out of the Lancet, this research around smoking, what is it telling us?
It's actually a really important piece of information, because what it's showing us is it's the largest analysis of the ASH Year 10 survey that looks at whether vaping has had a big effect on cigarette uptake in our Year 10s. And they've really taken data from the 1999 period to 2023 and looked at when vaping really took off in New Zealand, and has that had the big effect that we thought it would?
Because we thought what was going to happen was that you bring vaping in and it will stop smoking. We didn't really think about it. Will everyone pick up vaping? This is what it's showing, but it's also showing signs of people still smoking.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know, I think that you were around at the same time, Duncan, but actually we were concerned that youth were going to take up vaping. Yeah. It wasn't a massive surprise. We were warning about this problem. So yeah, what this is showing us is that when vaping has really hit the market and they'd looked at this data, that the daily smoking rates, there hasn't really been much difference at all. If we just left it going the way it was going, cigarette smoking wasn't cool with our teenagers. In the early 2000s, mid 2000s.
So you reckon it would have had an impact anyway? Without even introducing vaping, we would have seen smoking reduce. What's worse then is we've got the worst of both worlds.
Yeah, that's right. So now we've got this massive new problem. We've got kids who are addicted to nicotine vapes. And slowly, over the course of many years, we're trying to piecemeal put in regulations slowly to curb that. But really, we went about it the wrong way anyway, Duncan.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that shortly. Yeah, and you've been. I mean, everything you said back then has come to fruition. Just on I think it's the year 12s, we've seen a big spike in their vaping.
Yep. So we actually did a year 9 to year 13 survey in 2024, and actually a big spike was seen in that older group. So your year 12s and your year 13s jumped up to 26%, having actually vaped in the last 7 days, which is double what it was when we did the 2021 survey. So it was more of a problem in the younger group back when we did the survey back then, but now it's a massive issue in the older group, which makes sense because, of course, there weren't really, many regulations at that time when we did the first survey. Yeah,
I mean, there weren't many regulations. There was nothing. We've spoken about this before, but we allowed this thing to come into our country, untested, untried. No one knew what it really was. No one knew what the health impacts would be down the line. We still really don't. Research is young and in its infancy. Look what's happened. We've had 2 successive governments who have been hands off. They've tried to go around the margins, but they haven't listened, and look what we've got.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it would have been better to have this in a prescription model like Australia's got. And of course, I'm sure you'll go over the ditch quite a bit, as I do. You don't see vaping nearly as much as you do in youth in New Zealand, because they went around it as being as a therapeutic product. And we never did that. The Ministry of Health itself in New Zealand calls these recreational products. So they don't actually have any smoking cessation indication at all.
It's negligence. I mean, to do this, as a parent myself, I have a 14-year-old boy, and he says to me, all the guys are vaping at school. I'm not dead, but I'll tell you if they give me one. And I believe him, but that's negligence to do this to our kids. The Ministry of Health's early adopting model was just terrible.
It was. I mean, putting together, the expert technical vaping advisory group, a third of them made up of experts from the industry. No way would we put an advisory group from Big Tobacco tell us how we should be putting a smoke-free Aotearoa, would we? So the whole thing was crazy. These are still tobacco products.
Yes, and that's right. So we're meant to be replacing one with another, because it is true. People give me a bit of stick for this. It is true that vaping helps you get off smoking. And as a tool, as a prescription tool, it would have been really wonderful.
Yeah, it's another tool. I mean, there's still evidence out there that for some people, of course, it doesn't work, and for some people it does. But there's also a lot of evidence showing that there's dual smokers and vapors, which isn't so good in itself. So they're just doubling down and having the two. Fine if we had a message from ministry saying if you're a current smoker, you've tried FDA or MedSafe approved products, medicines, they haven't worked, you want to try vapes with the support that you need to get off cigarette smoking, then that's fine. But actually wean yourself off of both.
Yeah, and we've had nicotine in our vapes, and the Aussies haven't. How come we allowed nicotine at all these levels in our products?
Yeah, well, that was the advice from the expert group back in 2019. They're really the ones that were saying about the milligrams needed to get off a pack a day smoker. So we were with, it wasn't until 2020 that you had to be 18 to purchase the products. Before that, we had up to 53 milligrams of nicotine in one of these vapes. So, it's taken some time to get this down and some time to actually even put the R18 regulations through.
Yeah, and successive governments and ministers have just have idly looked at this thing and been too busy or didn't care enough. It's negligence. They didn't care enough. No one was really pushing a minister to do anything. I know you guys were, but there was no minister had the balls to do anything.
No, it's a strange thing, the impact and the way that we went around vaping here in New Zealand is very unusual compared to other countries.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, and if you look at around you look at our push around health and safety in the workplace and our health and safety overall. You can't dig a drain outside your house without 14 different people outside with 4 portaloos and cones, and so we've become a really sort of safe, at risk adverse society in the wake of Pike River probably, but on this, which down the track it might kill you. I mean, in America there are deaths linked to vaping, right?
That's with some of the substances that were added into the vapes, but we don't know the long-term effects. We know that it does actually cause damage to lung tissue. And we do know that it certainly isn't good for people who, have asthma or respiratory conditions. So even here at the conference, there's more and more literature coming out on the harmful effects on health that these products are having. But that long-term, the big, do they call cancer like cigarettes? We don't know what that's going to look like for, decades. No, but it's the same industry. And you look at the last 30 years, I looked at some stats just before the interview, and 175 million deaths globally in 30 years as a result of smoking. So you think that this, while it's, I mean, those early ads that said this is better for you, 95% better for you, those misleading ads, it's still something going into your lungs. It is. And, of course, they don't tend to use the 95% anymore. Well, they shouldn't, because we were giving them a big backlash about that. That was anecdotal sort of, catch they love to use, and it was rubbish. It was built on nothing, really, but it was a wonderful catchphrase that the pro-vaping lobbyists love to throw around.
Yeah.
So here we are, and we're trying to put in the regulations, which, of course, we were talking about no advertising in storefront windows. That's what we recommended years ago. Reducing nicotine content, recommended that years ago. Recommended putting a respiratory physician on the expert advisory group, but no, a third of them from industry made much more sense, Duncan.
Oh, my God. They're quick to drop the speed limit in town to 30 k's an hour. They're quick to do so many things. But on this is our health. What's going to happen the next few months? There are changes. Are you hopeful of these changes? What sort of changes are they?
I think that the changes will help. Once again, not seeing these brightly, coloured through the store windows, the brightly coloured products, so our kids won't be walking past them. That will help. And I think that not having the advertisements and the pictures on the websites and the sales, that'll help. But once again, it's another thing. It's like, why don't we just put them as a sort of therapeutic classed product and go down a prescription model for people who are actually struggling with giving up cigarette smoking.
Why have we put them in dairy? So every dairy worth their salt, every dairy owner who wants to make money has petitioned off the front of his or her store, and you got what happened with alcohol 30 years ago. Remember they put the alcohol next to the dairy? Well, they've done this in the dairy with vapes, trying to make out it's different or not. Come on, we're not fooled. Kids aren't fooled,
Exactly. I mean, they've made themselves specialist vape retailers so that they could, obviously sell the myriad of different flavours. And that was another issue. That was a loophole. We don't need as many suppliers as we have now who are selling these vape products. But once again, the horses have bolted. Many horses have bolted. And it's trying to lasso them all back into the stables. That's what it's like, Duncan.
Yeah, but you can't get all the horses back in the stable, can you?
No, you can't. Obviously, we can't, no, because that year 12 and 13 are now very high, 27% vaping every week. Those are also the ones going to university. And we know, I don't know about you, but we've got university kids, it's all over the place at university as well. And that's the group that we have let down. We believe the ministry has let down those kids who are addicted to vaping.
Well, they're my two daughters. I've got 21 and 23-year-old daughters, and they weren't smokers, but guess what? Exactly, They're vapors. So, and they hide it from me, and I see it a mile away, and so I'm angry about it. I'm really annoyed about it.
Yeah, you should be. And, we're frustrated and angry about it too, because the messaging that was very much put out there into the public, and it comes from a public health perception that these were going to be the answer to smoke-free Aotearoa. And it was an experiment, really.
Yes, it was an experiment on our people, but mainly an experiment on our young. So those that it worked for, who were smokers, they come off smoking. That's great. I mean, I acknowledge that it worked. But on the flip side of that, look at the price.
Well, absolutely. And for what this paper is showing, and it's a very good paper out of New Zealand, and it's in the Lancet, is showing that the daily smoking rates, there's no difference. There's no difference if we just let it carry on the way it was going. Cigarette smoking wasn't cool. Not many people, I mean, I'm the same, I've got a 26-year-old and 19-year-old spanning 5. So, they've all been exposed to that. Cigarettes were going out the door, but here we were, released this vaping products, and now we have a huge problem, and it's trying to really curb all that and bring it back in.
How many stores are there that sell vapes in New Zealand now? Because, I mean, someone sent me a message this morning saying it's 30,000, and I thought it was more like 1,200, but do we know what it is?
Yeah, so it's over that 1,500 with your specialist vape retailers, but the problem is that, of course, you can get them in petrol stations, and you can get them in dairies, and you can get them in, food supermarkets, limited flavors, but you can still get them. And of course, you can get them online. So, that's a big issue as well, because you've got to rely on couriers making sure that they're checking ages if they're dropping off vapes.
Yeah, but that's easy to get around that, right?
When you order them. So all of those issues and I think the overarching problem was, though, Duncan, is that when the messaging is coming from the Ministry of Health that these are safe products almost, that's the perception, and that's the problem that we had. And that's why they didn't really have the same, weren't perceived like cigarettes to our young kids. That was the problem.
And it's so unaccountable too. Some ministry boffin, says they're safe, so someone writes it down and it gets through a marketing campaign, and out it gets. It's as simple as that. Where was the oversight? Where was the rigour?
Well, absolutely. The rigour wasn't there in our mind. It hasn't been there.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
So what? How do you look when you look 10, 20 years down the track now? Just before I get to that question, sorry, Smoke-Free New Zealand 2025. That's not going to happen, is it?
No, that's not going to happen. We don't think that would happen. It'd be great if it did happen, and of course the foundation's fully behind Smoke-Free Aotearoa, but we never thought this was going to be the panacea to it.
And we're still in the infancy, I reckon, even at 27% of school kids smoking, the vapes. I reckon that you and I do an interview in 10 years' time, and it will be 77 or something like that. What's your prediction? Horrific prediction. What is it?
I think we're going to see more damage come out from a health perspective, but that's just it's a theory, it's a hypothesis. So I think that we need to really watch the space to see what the impact of those high users, the regular users of vaping products who were never smokers, because the problem is some of the trials at the moment, all that are coming through, are saying if there's damage, it's because they had the damage previously from cigarettes. You know what I mean? And then they go into vapes. But what we're going to have is a whole range of people who never had a cigarette. So if the injury is in the lungs and they've got health effects from the vapes in decades' time, not that we want to be there, but
I know, and it sort of mirrors, what we now know about alcohol. You see, alcohol, when I was a young person, it was encouraged. Even my parents were right into it, and now I know, not so good. Cancer causing, all that sort of stuff. And then you've got smoking, but that was cool in all the movies, and then it wasn't. And now vaping's cool. Does it not? Do you not see the pattern?
Well, exactly. And it's the thing is, they say, oh, well, it's not, it's the carcinogenics in the cigarettes. It's the nicotine. The nicotine is the addictive. That's the problem. You know what I mean? It gets them addicted. And then, of course, there is evidence that people can take up smoking. But do we want our kids being so addicted that they're waking in the middle of the night that they can't go throughout an hour without sucking on a vape?
Yeah. Well, that's what the industry wants. I have 14-year-olds that hit me up outside the local dairy. Sir, can you take this $20 and get me the blue gum berry? What? That's happening in my neighbourhood, and these guys are so addicted. First thing they do, leave school, straight to the dairy.
Yep. It's very disruptive, and it's disruptive for their schoolwork. It's disruptive for sports, and we're seeing that, and that's why we went out there and did the workshops, and we're the first ones to get out there and do that. Yeah,
you guys are fighting the good fight. I'll leave you there. You've been wonderful today. Thank you so much. We'll catch up again, and I dread what we'll talk about, but anyway, good luck, Letitia. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Bye.
cheers. Bye.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.
Yeah, it's not something that I've ever been keen on, but there's a couple of kids doing it. Do you vape?
No. Haven't never
boy.
touched it.
Yeah. Oh, it just doesn't interest me, eh?
No, neither does it with me. Same with smoking. Yeah, it's just not something that I
Looks stupid.
place any value in at all.
Yeah, I know. Enough said.
Really, it kind of is. I was saying before your interview that like my younger sister, for example, grew up in a generation where if she saw someone smoking on the side of the road, she'd really point it out and be like, "Oh, that guy's smoking," you know.
Oh yeah.
Me, I was kind of on the cusp of that, so I'm a bit more used to it. And then obviously my parents, completely different. Them seeing someone smoking is completely normal. But now it's interesting to hear that it's not only is it like, sorry, excuse me, not only is it coming back, but it's also kind of never really left.
Yeah, I know. And vaping now is allowing smoking again, which you watch, mate. 20 years time, people will be dying from it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I've never been a fan of vaping. I think the only time where I have ever seen vaping as justifiable is if someone is doing it to get off smoking.
Yeah.
With the intention of then stopping vaping. When you have your 14-year-olds that are just vaping because they think it's cool, then all of a sudden it's a massive issue.
I know 11-year-olds that were suspended from school, from my son's friends. Oh. Hey, there was at the cricket in the weekend, around the perimeter fence, there was a security guard who was there enforcing the non-smoking, non-vaping sort of ban in the stadium, and he had a quick vape every few minutes.
Awesome.
That sums it up, mate. Okay, let's do this to the editor. What have you got there, Isaac?
These ones, I believe, are coming from your YouTube video.
Yep.
Talking about lunches in schools.
Yep.
Nice, sweet. Okay, this first one here. I'm nearly 40 and I still take a sandwich into work. When I was at school, if a teacher saw a kid without food, they would just take them to a staff room and make them a sandwich. What happened to that?
I know, we made it hard. We've complicated it. We now make the lunches in Australia and send them to Nuhaka, and then they throw them out. It's so inefficient. This is from Henny J8D. Totally spot on, Duncan. They must be accountable for their mistakes. Yep, this is all in relation to food in schools. What have we got? What's next?
Bobbity Boo says, my niece's school do their own breakfast and lunch for kids who need it, which is generally 10 kids max in a school of 360. Breakfast, either cereal or toast with a spread of choice, and lunch is a toasted or fresh sandwich. Parents volunteer on a roster to do the breakfast or lunch. I agree with Richard Preble, hands it off to the school. Yeah, and Shane Howard, 6252, says to Party Māori should pay for it. You're like, that's going to happen. And then Stephen Kahui 3829 says, Marmite sandwich and buttered Weet-Bix was my staple diet in primary school. I ended up top Waikato athletics champ when I went to Taupiti Primary School. We had a fish and chips day on Friday. With our library movie time, usually a Bud Spencer Terrace Hill flick. This was in the late 70s to 80s. Fish and chips Fridays. Wow. Yeah. I went to North Cape Intermediate, which is a bit in the hood actually. Looking back now, it was really in the hood. Huge big state house area behind the school, and all the local we call them the local roughs would turn up and at the school, and we sort of all became mates with them, and we thought they were flash because they didn't have any lunch and they had money, and they went down to the fish and chip shop and bought potato fritters and chips and things, and so we thought they were rich. Yeah. But in truth, no one gave a shit because they were just going to school and getting takeaways every day. In fact, I saw one of the guys the other day. He was sniffing glue. Same guy I went to school with. So it doesn't end well. Yeah, great story.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.
Okay, so that is us. Thank you so much for your feedback and your support. Get in touch with our social media channels, Duncan Garner Podcast, TikTok, Instagram. Flick us an email, duncan@rover.nz. Please subscribe. How's the subscriber numbers looking? I'm not promising any more press-ups.
So have a look, actually. I haven't looked in a while.
17?
I think it has jumped up significantly from when you did your push-ups last Monday, so exactly a week ago. Let's have a wee gaze. At the time of recording this, we've jumped up 2,000 subscribers in a week.
Is that good? That's good, eh? Yeah, take that.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yes, so keep them coming, please. The more subscribers we get, the longer we can stay on air. I think that's pretty much. You have to what did I say? You have to wipe your bum or something. Well, no, what's it say? You've got to just make ends meet. You got to make it stand on its own 2 feet. Okay. So to my team, so please subscribe. Thank you to my team. Thank you guys. We'll do it tomorrow. Thanks, Isaac. You're a man. And remember, life is no dress rehearsal. There is no curtain raiser. This is it. We live in one of the best places on earth. So get out and really enjoy it. Which I'm going to do. I'm going fishing now as part of a story for the rest of the week, for the later in the week, about how the fishing rules are changing and how these guys are really angry. They're a fishing lobby group. So I'll go fishing now, and if you can have a great rest of the day. Take care, New Zealand. Ta-ra.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.